What up, Fight fan? We are back. My name is Marco Rubio from the Fightcast. We got a big Cinco de Mayo weekend. We got CANELO Alvarez versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. You know what time it is. It's the 10-minute breakdown. All right, guys, this is a 10-minute breakdown. We are back. We are going to break down CANELO Alvarez versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Cinco de Mayo weekend. CSIP weather factor on 100. CANELO Alvarez, a.k.a. Mr. A-Side, a.k.a. I was born ready. This is going to be a little bit different breakdown. I'm going to be breaking down the factors for CANELO, his past fights, and his keys to victory, what he needs to do to win this fight. This is gonna be part 1, and then part 2 will drop tomorrow for being Chavez, which I will have my final verdict, who I think will win this fight. Let's start off with Canelo's noticeable fight. He fought Shane Mosley back in 2013. That was a good win for him. His next fight being Austin Trout, which I thought would be a more difficult fight than it was, but it was pretty competitive. But we really got to see Canelo shine on that. Show his boxing, show his head movement, show his range of motion, range of power, even catching Trout and dropping him. While it was a competitive fight, we did see him have some problems with Trout's boxing. He was able to overcome and get a unanimous decision win. Of course, after that, he went on to fight the top dog at Floyd Mayweather. Even at 23, which is very impressive. He was very young, but we saw the inexperience that he had when he fought Mayweather, who's obviously the pound for pound king at that point. He outboxed him for 12 rounds, pretty much. You even embarrassing him in the last couple of rounds. Like, it was just an old school boxing lesson for Canelo, and we saw a lot of holes in his game. But again, he was very young, very inexperienced, and Mayweather just gave him an old school boxing lesson. So you can't really fault him for that. So he is 48-0. That is this one loss on his record. Moving on, after that, he needed a little bit easier fight, just a little confidence booster. So he fought Alfredo Angulo. That was a good performance by him, probably the best he's ever looked, personally to me. Again, but he was tailor-made for him. It was made for Canelo to look good. Let's be real. When something's tailor-made for you, it's made for you to look good. It's specifically tailored to you. So he really put on a clinic against Angulo, and I really wish they would have stopped a little bit earlier, because Angulo took a lot of punishment, man, because Canelo was letting him have it. And I think even Canelo was like, yo, stop this fight already, man. Like, he was taking damage, but that's just a warrior that Angulo is. He's going to go out on the shield 100% of the time. But overall, I thought that was a really good performance by Canelo. He looked great, and a great confidence booster after that performance with Mayweather. After that, he went on to take on Eslandi Lara. That was a tough fight for him. I personally thought he lost that fight, but I could see why they gave it to Canelo. It just really depends on the judges sometimes, guys. Sometimes the judges prefer the more technical boxer that's moving and getting the more precise punches, and sometimes they prefer the more aggressive fighter. Even though he's not landing clear shots, he's the one that's initiating the action, and sometimes that's what you get. I personally thought he lost, just because my preference is the more technical fighter, which I thought was Lara at that point. I thought he lost, but it was a tough fight for him, and he was able to get the split decision win. After that, he had another tailor-made fight. This is where I kind of question Canelo's pick of opponents at this point. After you fight Lara, you're supposed to have another tough opposition. He went on and took off James Kirkland, who was whose chin has already been worn out, who he wasn't able to work with Ann Wolf, who again is tailor-made for Canelo style, whose defense is less than par. And we really saw that in that fight. He kind of just ran through. It was a 7-minute slugfest, and of course Canelo getting the better of the exchange, because he was the better boxer. So I really don't give him any props for that fight, because obviously it was tailor-made for him. and we have already had a tailor-made fight with an Angulo. There was no need to take a step back. He did eventually fight Miguel Cotto the next fight, even though Miguel Cotto was past his prime, and he really saw it in that fight. His timing was off, his power wasn't there, his speed wasn't there, and Canelo was able to outbox him, even though it was a very competitive fight. And then after that, of course, he fought Amir Khan, who was two weight class smaller than Canelo. He was able to get the 6-round KO. Again, Amir Khan is a 140 fighter at best, and up to that point, I don't think he had fought. He had fought at, I think the last weight class he fought was 147. Again, 2 weight classes bigger than one, because I think their contracted weight was at 155 Canelo weight, which is not a real weight class. And even the day of fight, Khan was stated to report that that Canelo was walking around at 180 plus, because there was no rehydration clause. What a rehydration clause is a clause saying you can't weigh over a certain amount of the official weigh-in limit. So he was walking around like 180 plus, from what I hear, which is huge, man. Especially if you're cutting down from when you're weighing in at 155 day before. Of course, so he knocked out Amir Khan, even though I thought he was losing the first 4 rounds of that fight. Up until the knockdown, it doesn't matter because he knocked the shit out of him. So it really doesn't matter at that point. After that, he took on Liam Smith, who's really just a paper champion. He was untested, didn't have anyone on his resume, and really no reason he should have been in the ring with a fighter like Canelo. And that's where I really, criticized his opponent opposition at that point. He got in there and got him out with a body shot in the 7th round, I want to say. So it was easy work for Chavez. Some of the factors that I want to go over is things that can go either way in this fight, and that's why I made it a kind of difficult fight for me to pick, because of the drastic weight jump. I do have weight and power being a factor in this fight, a factor for Canelo or for Chavez. We really don't know. We really don't know if the weight jump is going to affect Canelo's power. We know he's strong at 155, at 154. We've seen him knock out people or at least smaller fighters, but we've seen that he has power. He can hurt you, but will that power translate to a higher weight? We don't know. Or he may have been depleting himself too much at 155, and now that he's saving himself a little bit more with the weight, maybe he's even stronger than before. We really can't tell until the night of. His powers may affect Chavez. He may be able to knock Chavez out. We won't know until the day of. So the power can either go for Canelo or Chavez. At this point. Speed, I give it to Canelo. I think no matter what the weight is, I think he's faster than Canelo. I think he's a better boxer. That's number 3. I think 9 times out of 10, if these guys were the same weight, same height, that he would outbox Chavez 100% of the time, or at least 9 out of 10 of the time. Another factor that I have is number 4. A lot of people are comparing this fight to Sergio Martinez versus Chavez, which I kind of see comparisons because Martinez was a good boxer and a smaller fighter compared to the Chavez. But the one factor that I'm putting in it is that Martinez was a former soccer player and had great foot movement. Canelo does not have good footwork. He's very flat-footed. He doesn't move a lot in the ring. He does slip and evade punches well, but that's not the same as getting out of the way of punches. You have the bigger fighter in Chavez. He's going to want to make it a brawl. And if you're not being able to move and outbox him, you're going to have a long night with him. So that's going to be one of my factors in there. He's flat-footed. We don't know what kind of, and especially with that weight, if it's going to drag him down, if it's going to slow him down, we don't know yet. We have to see in that fight. But I do see him as being a very flat-footed fighter. And the last factor, of course, is him being Mexican pride. Mexico has a rich culture of fight tradition. Of course, Chavez's dad, Julio Cesar Chavez, was a big Mexican superstar. He is a big Mexican superstar. There's no doubt about it. But a lot of people question his Mexican verification. I would say his CSIP weather factors is being come to question People are saying he's gone to Hollywood, that he's over here living in Beverly Hills and that, or in California somewhere, and that he doesn't even live in Mexico. And when he does come to Mexico, he treats the people really bad. That he forgot where he comes from. He's not humble anymore. And while people are saying the exact opposite of Chavez, that Chavez still lives in Mexico. Chavez has always been there, and he stay humble to his people. And a big factor that he's taking a big pay cut just to fight Canelo, just to prove that he's better than Canelo. He took a big pay cut. I think it was it's an 80-20 split. So that's going to show a lot. Maybe he's motivating. Maybe this fight is motivating Chavez to be the fighter he can be. So a lot of Mexican pride is on the line in this fight. And of course, another thing that people criticize Canelo for is the whole contradicting himself. He says he's willing to fight. He's willing to move up to 160 at his pace. To fight Triple G, but then he bypasses Triple G and moves up to a higher weight class than Triple G at 164.5, which is the contract weight, to fight Chavez, and someone that's not as glorified as Triple G, I would say. Also saying that he'll fight Triple G, but within Triple G says, "Hey, I need my belt, homie." He just goes and vacates him the next week, and it's kind of, again, he says one thing. He says he's ready to fight any time, that he was born ready, and then he goes and vacates his belts the next week when Triple G comes knocking. So that's what gives a lot of people criticize him for that. Other than that, this fight is very interesting, man. It's a battle for Mexican pride. It's a battle for Mexican supremacy. A lot of the beef between him and Chavez is that Canelo came from nothing. Canelo came from the streets and made himself a household name. He started from nothing and worked hard to get to where he's at. There's no doubt about that. While on the contrary, Canelo saying that Chavez was spoon-fed everything, that the only reason he is where he is because of the name of his dad, and that he's lazy, and that, of course, everyone knows the worth ethic has been questionable for Chavez, that he's been he's been caught smoking. He's been tested for marijuana before. He's been caught with a DWI. He's been caught not training or training at random times throughout the day whenever he wants to. Not really working hard, as we saw in the Martinez fight, as we saw in the Brian Vera fight, as we saw in the Fanfara fight, where he didn't even make weight, and that was at 178, a bigger weight class than he ever fought in, and he didn't make weight for that. So a lot of people question Chavez's heart on that. But moving on, my keys to victory for Canelo is obviously he's gonna have to box Chavez. He can't let the Mexican pride factor get in the way. Chavez is gonna call him out. He's gonna want to say, "Hey, meet me in the middle of the ring and let's bang it out. Let's go blow for blow." The traditional Mexican style of fighting. But Canelo's gonna be smarter than that because he's a better boxer through and through. I think he beats him 9 times out of 10. In pure boxing. So he needs to do that. He needs to stick to that. He needs to work the body, work the jab, get in and out, and not get caught up in the emotion. His emotions take advantage of him and try to bang it out with the bigger Chavez. Number 2, key to victory is work the body. No matter what Chavez shows up, if he's out of shape or if he's not in shape, he needs to work that body to slow him down. If Chavez comes in shape, a good way to stop him or slow him down is to work the body. I saw a really good Canelo doesn't have really good body work, but I saw improvement when he fought Amir Khan a couple years back, 2 years back. He was landing that right hand to the body, and even like within a couple shots to the body, there was big bruising on Amir Khan's body. So that goes to show that he has really strong body shots. So he needs to utilize those in this fight and slow Chavez down. But if he does come in shape, if he doesn't come in shape, then he's soft. His mid region is going to be soft. His condition not going to be there if he hasn't worked out for this fight. We're going to be able to tell very quick within the first couple of rounds. So he needs to work that body and really break down Chavez. Number 3 factor is going to be hard to explain, but I'm going to try my best. He needs to break Chavez. Chavez has quit before. In fights. Again, he quit in the Brian Vera fight. He quit in the. Some people say he quit in Martinez fight. Well, he didn't really quit, but he didn't train hard for that fight. He quit in the Fonfara fight. I do think he quit in the Fonfara fight. He got caught with the right hand and kind of just sat on the ropes. He looked like he was able to continue, but just didn't want to. So we've seen Chavez break. We haven't seen that from Canelo. While he has been frustrated in the fights, of course, with his Landy Lada fight and the Mayweather fight where he got outboxed, we haven't seen him, really quit. So he needs to test Chavez's heart and get in there and break him down with boxing, with working the body, take him to the later rounds and suffocate him when it comes to those deeper rounds where he's not conditioned to go to. So I think those are the three big factors that Canelo's gonna have to do if he wants to win this fight. Overall, again, I think he's the better boxer, and if it was size wasn't a factor, he would beat Chavez 9 times out of 10, 100%. But there it is, guys. This is my keys to victory for Canelo, what he has to do to win this fight. And if you like this video, like, share, and subscribe. And part 2 will be out tomorrow, so stay tuned to that. Again, hope everyone has a good day, and stay woke, my people.